Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It has been a really long time since I posted that very first video. I think it's been at least 2 years, probably longer. So as you might have noticed from the title of this particular video, it's kind of a shift from what I said this channel was going to be if you watched my very first video. I hope to be able to shift back to that at some point in time, but I have been kind of busy with competing for an Ironman competition since August, and I felt like it would be something worthwhile to kind of dive a bit into and discuss my own experiences and my thoughts of the process for anybody who's potentially interested in also competing in an Ironman competition themselves or some other triathlon. I have watched various videos of other people who are currently doing a triathlon or have already done, among other things, and I will actually post a link to their videos and channels in the description below if you would love to have more information and see other people's experiences as well. However, first let me introduce myself. My name is Brandon Day, and this is my channel, Daybreak. Now, for anybody who saw the very first video and I was explaining how this would be about art and science and how they overlap and work together, well, sorry to disappoint if that was your hope to view this video. I do have this little figure guy that I might paint in future videos to have at least the artistic aspect of it, but for now there's going to be just a little bit of a discussion on the Ironman competition. Now, my own personal goals for why I decided to go into an Ironman competition is between graduate school and eventually get this job, I've been really fluctuant with how often I work out and exercise for my own physical health. And so I came to realize I need to have a goal, something to aim towards to help give me the motivation to continuously work out. And I was watching a video of another YouTuber who I will post a link to that video in the description below, and they were saying how they ate and trained like their triathlon coach for a day. And after watching that video, I was thinking about now would be a good time to try and do something like this competition. I've done a marathon in the past and really enjoyed it, but haven't really had the time to try and focus in on that kind of training. But now I have a decent paying job and time after work to focus on something like that. So after doing some research, looking in the videos, purchasing a book that I will discuss in a future video, I decided, let's do this. Let's do an Ironman competition. However, at that time when I made the decision back in August, I knew it was going to take some time to devote, but I didn't realize how much time until I really started investing in the training. So it's just been a lot of work and a lot of time outside of work to really get myself ready for this competition I have coming up in July. Now, the purpose that I hope to give for this video is to discuss a little bit about what my training's been like, maybe show what some of my training sessions are like as I'm going forward. But one of the things I want to focus on for these first few videos that I noticed was a little bit lacking in the videos and channels that I watched was, what is the financial cost to actually go into an endeavor such as this? Now, a lot of these videos, they do explain a little bit like how it's a little bit expensive. You got registration, you got your different equipment that you need to purchase, such as a bike, get your swimming gear, running shoes, etc., etc. But they never really said, how much does this stuff cost? And while I knew it was going to be a little bit spendy, I really didn't know exactly how much it would cost as I start getting into this endeavor. So I hope to be able to shed some light on what the financial cost might look like for this. Now, it's really variant. It can be as expensive as you want, and you can try and make it as cheap as possible by getting a used bike, depending on the race that you register for. But there's a lot of financial investment that does go into doing something like this. So with that in mind, I would like to start breaking down a little bit of some of these initial costs. So the first thing is I'll create a little bit of a list that can be seen here of some of the main gears that you will need. And then in future videos, I will then break down a little bit more of what the price range looks like for each one of these. Now that list is just your main things that you need, but there's a lot of secondary things that you don't necessarily need but can really help with your training. Now, before going any further, I would like to explain a little bit on what an Ironman competition is. Some of you might already know that it's a triathlon sport. Other people who might be coming into this might have heard of it but don't really know exactly what it entails. So an Ironman competition, like I said, is a triathlon sport. It involves first swimming, followed by a bike ride, and then running. Now, what makes the Ironman so challenging is the length of each one of those activities, and it all needs to be done in one single day. So first off, you start with a swim, and the swim is about 2.4 miles. Depending on the competition you're doing, this could range anywhere from being a lake swim, a river swim, being in the ocean or sea, and anywhere else in between that. And regardless of what it is, it's always 2.4 miles for that swim. Next up is the biking session. This will be 112 miles that you'd need to go over. Depending on the race, it might be one single loop or multiple loops that you have to do to be able to eventually reach the 112 miles. Lastly, you'll finish this off with the run, which is a full marathon, so 26.2 if I remember correctly. And each one of those has its own cutoff times on how long it takes for you to finish off the race. You have 2.5 hours for the swim, and if you go past that, I believe you're disqualified for the remainder of the race. If you finish the swim in time, you then have 8 hours or 10 hours since the start of the race to finish the bike. And then lastly, you have the run, which will be about 6 or 7 hours to then finish off the run. So for a combined total, if you max out all those times, you have about 17 hours to finish the entire Ironman competition. So that's a lot of time to invest into a single event and to make it through all those mileage. Now there's various lengths of triathlons. You have the next, which is the half Ironman or the 70.3. And then from that you have Olympic distance and sprint. If there's interest in that, I can talk a little bit about that in a future video. But the main one I'm going to be discussing here is the Ironman competition, since that's the one that I'm doing. Now, after explaining those distances, some of you might be thinking, okay, that sounds intense, but that might be something that I would like to do. Or you're just thinking, wow, this guy's completely crazy. Who would do that in their right mind? And I ask myself that a lot of the time. But for anyone who is interested, the first thing I would like to cover in this video is, what does registration costs look like? Now this is something, and again in other videos, I didn't really see anybody exactly explaining. It could be because it varies depending on the length that you're doing or the course that you're doing, but I think it would be helpful to have at least a rough idea on what the expenses would look like if you want to compete in an Ironman competition. So before you go ahead and buy your bike, get your swimming gear on, hire a coach, let's talk about registration. Now, if you're interested in competing in an Ironman competition, what you'll want to do is you will want to go to the Ironman.com website that you can see here. As you can see, there's several links that you could go to, races, live. I do know that they do stream some of the Ironman competitions, such as the World Championships. They have training. However, let's just go to the races. Now, the thing is about an Ironman competition, it is worldwide. So you could find an Ironman competition anywhere that you are potentially interested in. There's several throughout the United States, but there's some in Australia, Europe, Africa. As you can see right here, it mentions that there's a half Ironman, a 70.3 in Panama, so if you're interested in that. But since I'm talking about an Ironman, let's just specifically look at Ironman competitions. Now, as you can see here, there's this Ironman that's coming up here on March 2nd for anybody who wants to try train for it in like a month, probably 2 weeks actually at this point. Let's just check this out. So see race details. Okay. So if you go here, it breaks it down for you. It tells you what the swim is. It's in the lake. Bike is rolling hills and the run is flat. What the temperature is potentially going to be like, water temp, and the airport that you want to fly into. It's all really useful information. If you scroll down, it has a few of the other things that are useful for it. It does have a little bit of a YouTube video that does show the course if you're interested in doing that, and just various other applications as well. So as you saw back up here, there's the register now. So let's go and look at that. Okay, so if we're to apply for the Ironman in New Zealand, it shows right here that there's Tier 5 General and NZ Annual membership. Looks to be about the same price, so I guess if you just want to do this one time or if you want to join for a yearly membership, you could do one or the other. So this is in New Zealand dollars, so if we were to look this up and convert to US for anybody who's interested in, for anyone who's in the US that's interested in competing in this. So New Zealand dollars to US dollars. Go back to this, 1,275. Okay, so that is about $783.60 just to register for this event. However, there are amenities that you can add to this to make it more expensive. Well, maybe not for this one. So that's the New Zealand one. Let's see. For anyone who's in the US, and if you want to do one in the US, let's see. Let's narrow it down. Let's go to, let's see, United States. Here we go. Okay, so they got the championship in Texas. Here we go, Ironman Lake Placid. So if you're in New York or the East Coast area, this could be potentially an option. Looks like it's sold out, but let's just click on it and see if we could find out what the details are. So it swims lake, bikes hilly, runs hilly. That sounds pretty rough, but go for it and see what happens. So let's see, if we go to this, will it still say the price? Nope, does not say the price. Ironman Wisconsin in September of 08. All right, let's check this one out. Looks like it still has some availability. So again, soap swim is in a lake, bike is hilly and runs rolling. Let's go to register. Okay, let's see, 825 US dollars. So that is definitely more expensive than the New Zealand one. Okay, and so right now we have about $760 and $825. Okay, so far these have been pretty expensive. Let's see if there's any cheaper ones. Let's see, where could potentially be a cheap option? Let's go to Mexico. Let's see what pulls up there. Okay, so we have Ironman Cozumel in November 24th. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, so the price there, $700. Okay, so cheaper than the other two, but still expensive. Well, I won't really go through too many more of this, but for interest, let me just check out what the price is for a half Ironman. If that's a little bit too expensive for you, let's see if a half Ironman might be cheap. Well, look, here we go. Let's check out one in New Zealand, and we'll see how cheap this is in comparison. So 620. So that's half the price. So $381 for the half Ironman in New Zealand. So while still expensive, it's definitely a lot cheaper than doing a full-length Ironman. So if that's potentially your goal and you would like to try out an Ironman yourself, a half Ironman could be a good way to go for sure. So there you have it. An Ironman competition is not cheap. There might be less expensive ones out there that might be less than $700. As you can see, it's worldwide, so they could really vary. But you're still looking at spending a few $100s to just register for the competition. I myself had to actually do an installment fee because I couldn't afford the whole thing right up front. So that is an option if you still want to do it and can just do a pay over time option. Or you could do a half Ironman, which as you saw from that one is at least a few $100s cheaper. However, that is just the base package. If you want, there are amenities that you can add to it that will make it more expensive. There is what they call the Nirvana package, at least for the one that I signed up for, where they then include potentially access to their on-site bike mechanic, shuttling to and from the race site, maybe even, I believe, hotel reservations that's included in that as well. So there are some benefits to doing that. Oh, and also if you go and get the really high one, I think if you get within a good time, you can potentially be auto signed up for a world championship if you end up doing well enough to be able to compete in something like that. I'm not really quite sure what the time window is that you'd have to get to be considered for a world championship, but that is an option. However, that would be quite more expensive. The one that I looked up into, the base price was about $800 for registration. However, if I got all the base packages and all the amenities and everything like that, I think it would have cost me about $1,300, maybe more, for their top tier package. So that is a lot of money to invest. If you have the money to be able to do that, fantastic. But otherwise, and with some people that I've talked to, you really only need to do the base registration. They probably have the on-site mechanic that you could pay for them to have them check out your bike instead of being included. However, they do have the hotel that the Ironman competition sponsors, so you can reserve a room, which also comes with its own amenities, which allows you to keep your bike in your room. It also comes with a breakfast that is there for each morning of your stay, including on the morning of the race, which says that starts at about 4 a.m. that breakfast. Not 100% sure on the time, but I think the race starts around like 6 a.m. So if you're not an early bird, you might want to work on that. However, that is roughly what registration costs look like. And again, they vary, and potentially that's why other people haven't really mentioned it. But I think it's still really useful to know kind of roughly what you're looking into if you want to register for an Ironman competition. Now, another expense as well that is really useful to have is hiring a coach. They will help provide your types of workouts that you need for your swim, bike, run, a nutrition plan, strength workouts, and anything else that you need. Now, I will go into that breakdown as well in a future video because they can also be various prices. However, that is another thing that would be highly recommended for you to do if you are interested in competing in one of these competitions. Even if it's sprint, going and maybe hiring a personal trainer at a gym or finding somebody, a friend that might have done this before, to help give you some guidance could also be really useful. However, this video is already getting kind of long for this particular topic, so I'm going to wrap it up here. If you are interested in checking out some of those other people that I have looked into for their Ironman competitions, please check out in their link below. Some of them have already finished their Ironmans. One of them is currently in the process of that. I would say go and support him. His channel is called Fat to Ironman. It's this gentleman who is trying to get ready for the Cairns Ironman competition, and he's given himself 60 weeks to train for that and to get into shape for it. So go show him some support, watch his channel, like and subscribe. However, on that note, I will wrap it up here, and thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video, which hopefully won't be in another 2 years. Have a good one all. Bye.